Um, Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Um, I'm definitely humbled. So I guess with my story, how it all began really, it started last year, in 2020, when lockdowns happened during the COVID-19 crisis. And I saw like governments, in particularly in Botswana, more focused in Botswana, how they were helping formal businesses with tax breaks. Even banks were offering holiday breaks from paying like premiums. And then I thought about, what about the street vendor that's down the street? How are they being assisted? Because during lockdown, they mostly deal in perishable goods. And when you open the economy, where can they go for financing to help them kickstart their businesses? There's currently no formal institution that's going to help them. And so I looked to see what are the solutions out there in the world that are targeting the informal sector, and how can I make them better in terms for my economy, and possibly if this is a problem that's apparent in other countries, it would make for a scalable solution. I didn't know how, but that's just where I started. And at the time, there was a competition. It was the SADC competition in partnership with Finmark Trust for financial inclusion. And I applied under the SMME financing category with an idea. And this idea was, okay, I looked at people in the informal sector. They may not have collateral necessarily, they may not have bank accounts, but most of them have cell phones. Well, cell phones, because we live now in a digital era, data is a commodity. So how can we monetize data and get the informal sector access to credit, and also helping the financial institution or government have valuable information enough to make a well-informed decision in order to finance this market segment. And that's when Quickie was born, and we focused on using mobile data. This is information from the cell phone. We look at things, we look at various data inputs, such as the easiest that comes to mind is like airtime. How much do you top up in airtime every day, every month? Who do you call and stuff like that? When you give us permission to access that, then we can create a score and information that's informative to the financial institution in order for them to give you the finances. So originally, we wanted to create our own mobile wallet. But then we saw, in terms of regulation, there was a huge barrier in terms of they required a minimum of 200,000 US dollars as a entry into the market to just sit in the bank. And then you needed to have your own money now to finance operations. How are you going to convince an investor or a bank that you need $200,000 to start for an idea? And so we then sought to partner with an existing mobile network operator that already has the license. The reason why we didn't go with that option first was because we saw that the transaction fees, more especially in Botswana with mobile wallets, are very high as compared to East Africa. When you use M-Pesa, they are very affordable, and that's why there's high adoption as compared to Botswana. That's why we wanted our own mobile wallet. But the startups costs were too high, so we ended up going with a telco company, because we figured, okay, let's use Botswana as our testing ground. And then once we've proven that our solution works, we've raised enough money, then possibly in other markets, we can, where there's less a higher fee to starting in that market, that's when we'll scale our solution. And so luckily we won my category in this competition, and I had a co-founder then But because I'm coming from a traditional finance background and this is a tech solution, so I had co-founded the startup with a technical co-founder, which unfortunately he had to leave along the way due to like family constraints. And so I was now back to square one of like, okay, here's the solution. We started working on it, but now I have no idea on how to finish it. I don't have clients yet, but I do have traction. And then I started looking in the community of developers, who can I get to partner with me? And I noticed a lot of the developers that are there in Botswana, there aren't any females. It's mostly guys. And you'll find that most of them overestimate their skills. And they hope to somehow along the way figure it out. But with such a product, there is no way of figuring it out along the process. So it was very difficult to get someone locally. And I looked internationally, and the problem was to get a good developer, I needed serious funds, because it's hard to get an experienced developer to come in your solution, because they are not really interested in getting equity, because for very new startups, there's a high, as the numbers go, there's a high failure rate. They want to get paid for their services. So it's finding that balance. And then the other thing with our telco partner, getting the data from them was such a process, because it took just 2 months for them to sign an NDA. And you can imagine, what are you supposed to be doing in the meantime? Then we had the financial institution that wanted to partner with us. They're like, okay, we're ready to give you the money, but let's start seeing like what's happening now in your startup. And you're just like, I'm still waiting for my partner to give me the data for then now to start processing. So there were many issues on different fronts. And at some point I did feel like, this is such a huge task. I wanted to kind of let go of it. But then I thought to myself, as I told Val the other day, when you don't work on a nagging issue, on an issue that keeps nagging you, you're robbing the world of that solution. It came to you for a reason. And so it's your duty to now implement it, and you can be able to change other people's lives. So I thought about, when I lost that motivation, I thought about the other people and less about myself. And that kept kind of pushing me. And then luckily, since from that competition, we were housed under Botswana Innovation Hub. And then we competed in another startup competition with Letero. Letero is a microfinancing, Pan-African microfinancing financial institution. There were 9 startups and we won first place. And I recall during the interview, one of the magazine asked me, like, how does it feel to be the only female founder that's competing in this competition? And I told them, I honestly didn't notice until they said that point. Like the whole time I'm just thinking about, okay, I need to raise money. This institution would be a great partner because they're in the microfinancing space. That's just where I'm focusing. I wasn't thinking about I'm competing with other men. There's no female in here, or am I intimidated by it? Because that doesn't matter. What matters is, do you have the best product that's on market? And that's what you need to focus on. And so from that, we developed further negotiations and talks, but I still had a big problem of I needed a technical co-founder. And so I then took a pause of like, this is my issue. Most issues for most tech startups are access to market or financing. For me, it was neither. I had both, but I needed talent, but it was not there, or one that I could not afford. So I had to slow down, and I then decided to do a master's program in financial technology at UCT. And I was like, well, if I can't find it, then I'm going to become it. Because like, I'm not going to let this big issue be what's going to stop me. clearly the solution needs to be in market. If I already have clients before the solution is done, if I already have a platform before the solution is done, it's gaining traction because we already started talking to MasterCard and GSMA, and they're really interested in the product. So I was like, you know what, even if I don't have a technical background, I'm going to learn it. It's okay. I'll find probably a team to help me build the solution in my school, and I'll network with the right people. I'm just going to continue on this journey because not only, it is also, I mean, like, an entrepreneur lifestyle is not the easiest. You have a lot of hard days and you have good days, but it's very, very rewarding because you meet a lot of people across different backgrounds, and you get to network, and you get to challenge yourself because you're put in situations that you never thought before. I've had to negotiate not only for capital raising, I've had to negotiate on why the solution needs to be in market. Every point in your life you have to negotiate, and you have to think of ways that how do you make each transaction mutually beneficial for the other partner and yourself. So it's been a constant learning experience. And now I've built the team, and now we're building the solution. And like, with instance, today I got a surprise because we were featured in a report that I don't know if you guys know about Time Bank here, but we're in the same report. They're looking at fintech solutions that are across Africa. So that was a really humbling, like, experience for me to see that, like, wow, I'm on that level. So my thing is to say, like, it doesn't matter if you don't know how. I'm a spiritual person, and I believe once you know what you want to do, like Val said, your mission, you just keep at it. Everything else will follow. The team will follow, the money will follow. And as they say, you don't fall in love with, like, the idea. You fall in love with changing people's lives, because your idea may fail. Whether you're in the job or you're running a business, that idea that you had, it may fail, and you may need to pivot, you may need to change. But for as long as your mission is to change people's lives, that will keep you on track. Thank you.
Wow, Titose, so many words of wisdom. Thank you so much. I'm sure the ladies have lots of questions. Please turn on your please turn on your videos and your microphones. We'd love to hear from you, ladies. Wow, focus on your lovely comments coming through. I would love to ask you, what was it that got you started in finance? What was your interest in finance? Where did that come
from? So growing up, my father runs his own business, and my mother is a doctor. So every time I used to ask her for stuff, she'll tell me she doesn't have money. So I was like, I don't want to be a doctor or be an employee. And then with my father, sometimes he did have money, sometimes he did not. So I was like, okay, maybe business is the way to go, but having multiple businesses would prove better, because when one is not working properly, the other maybe will be working, and I'll consistently always have access to money. And then when I got into varsity, I figured maybe the best way is to learn and understand how money plays a role in the economy and society. And that's why I chose finance. But upon finishing my degree, and I reflected on how my journey has been, I realized it's a merge of finance and entrepreneurship, because I ran a student club in varsity to help student entrepreneurs, just to build an ecosystem to help each other. Even with the leadership programs that I did, they were more towards entrepreneurship. And even my final dissertation, it was on SMME financing. And so I realized my specialty could lie between finance and entrepreneurship.
Beautiful. Thank you. Maite, I saw you turned your camera on. Did you want to ask a question? Be brave, Matumela. You can do this.
No, I really don't have any questions, but I loved it when she got to that part where she said, "Hori, if you can't find it, then you should be it." And I was like, yeah, that's definitely the way to go.
Beautiful. Also one of my favorite quotes. Anyone else? Manisi?
I have a question. I would like to know if so far in your business, is there anything that you've encountered that you wish you had done differently, and one thing that you think you've done that has set you apart?
So I have a different outlook on mistakes. For me, because I used to do art when I was in high school, and a thing that has stuck with me is what my high school teacher said, which is, it's in art, but I applied it in life, which is there's no such thing as mistakes. You can always make it so that the mistake, what you call a mistake, was always intentional and make it into a beautiful piece, which is what I did with my artwork. And so with life, maybe in the moment, it may feel like a mistake, but when I look back, I see this is a journey and it's a story. It had to happen for me to be where I am today. So when I look back, sure, I can say I wish I studied harder in high school. Maybe I could have gotten on the Top Achievers program that is offered in Botswana, where the government sponsors the top achievers from high school to Ivy League schools in America, and stuff like that. But I wouldn't be where I am today. And I love where I am today, but in the moment back then I didn't. So for me, it's like the mistakes aren't a mistake, they're part of my journey. And then I would say a thing that makes me stand out, I think people say I'm very mature for my age. I'm only 22, but I've done so much great work. And that's because when I get into a room, I use that to my advantage. I don't see that as a weakness. And in Africa, yes, it's known like most people in high positions are older people, and they sometimes don't look at, they think age, you don't have maturity, but when I speak, I make sure people listen. Even with the soft voice, I've been told you have a too soft voice, you need to be tougher. No, I use the soft voice I have for people to listen to me. And I've gotten to where I am even with my soft voice, and I'm going to continue with that.
Wow. Any other questions? What about the quiet ladies? Sarah?
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
I wanted to find out, did you eventually find a solution? I mean, are you now rolling out how to provide funding?
So right now we're still in testing stage, because it's not long ago that we received data from the telcos. So we're still basically still managing to see if we can derive a great model for us to then roll out the solution. So it's still very in the early stages, and we've set out our clients, our market. It's now just
implementation.
It's developing, yeah.
Sorry, and I have another question. How do you keep the telcos from stealing your idea? Because the big telcos do steal ideas, yeah?
It's positioning yourself right. They know they can't do, they know they don't have the expertise. They are just the platform. And so originally, actually, we just wanted to use their platform and we'll get to the financial institutions. And then they were like, no, we want, because what it would be like is when we reach market, it would be, the market would be our clients, but they wanted it to be their clients. Like our telco, it's just too early for me to say their name, but our telco wanted to wanted the loans to be in their name, in the public. And so we would just, in the background, do the work for them. And originally we were like, no, we want the market to know it's us. But then we figured, you know what? Like we intended Botswana to just be a testing ground. So it's fine if it's on the front end, it's just them. At the end of the day, we're leveraging their platform, we're writing on their license, we're testing through them. And then in other markets now, we will be the face of our product. So it's sometimes a give and take. You have to see the pros and cons, and it's being very clear with the telco, like this is where you can negotiate up to, and this is where you will not. For me, I've known whether they take my solution or not, I can go to the next one and they'll still be happy with my solution. Even if all 3 telcos in Botswana refused, I already started talking to telcos in other countries and they were interested in the product. So it was like, I know I have a great solution and I'm not going to take any mess around it. And it's also important to have your papers in order and legal representation as well. So that off the bat, I had already started, which is cost as well, but it's cost that you cannot like avoid. It's very important to have legal on board. And so I had my own private lawyer, but I also tried to leverage the lawyer that was available from the Innovation Hub. So you try and look for ecosystems that are available and try to use from them to just reduce your costs.
So what do your parents think about your journey? Are they supportive? How has that been?
My parents are very proud. My father, though, still believes in like education. He's just like, after you do a master's, you should do a PhD. I'm like, I'm not interested in doing a PhD. My mother's the one who understands me more. She's like, no, she knows why she's doing her master's. When she's done, she wants to focus on her business. So it's mixed feelings. I mean, they're very proud with how far I've gotten thus far, but they still have different views on what's important in the world. And I love them and I thank them, but I've been clear to them, like, I'm going to do what I want to do.
Anyone else? Any questions? Is that it? Katlego, are you the only female leadership in your organization? How do you manage leading a team?
I'm not the only female, and I just manage my team in the sense of knowing who's good at what, and when it's time, like when the task comes, knowing who's the best to do that particular task and staying in your lane, but being of service to everyone. So our product is obviously of service to the market, but in terms of leadership qualities, a saying I've learned is about unlocking the potential in others. So you have to be of service even to your own team that's under you. Know that learning is a two-way process. You can learn from them, they can learn from you, and trying not to be like over assertive just because you're in a leadership position. So that's how you can actually empower your teammates. It's not always easy because you can have differing opinions and you want things done a certain way. So sometimes when you're wrong, admit it, because that speaks to your character and your integrity. And then, you then move forward from there. I mean, during my journey, I'll admit that there've been some team members that have stayed with me throughout, and there've been some that have left. And I've come to make peace with that. That's just the journey.
Anyone for one more question? I think that's it.
Hi, sorry, can I?
Yes, of course.
Just another one, because earlier you touched on you were meeting from the technical side people that were overly confident about their skill sets, and then it became it. And then as along the way, obviously you're meeting people within the same space that you are needing the skill set. How did you approach them, and like the process of getting people to come on board on this idea that you have and just helping you facilitate it? How did you work around that?
So you pitch to them like you would pitch to an investor, but you set it to your audience. Now you're trying to get someone who's talented on board of your team. So you show them your track progress. This is what you've achieved. This is what you've done. This is your dream. Because you want to bring someone who is aligned to your dream, not just anybody. And then when you've built a strong enough track record, it becomes easier for people to join your team. And so, because I know that one of my greatest strengths is more on business development side of getting access to partners, to finance, and being clear, like, when you come on board, this is where you'd be, this is what you do, and this will be, you need to show them how they'll add value to your organization, how you add value to your organization, so that there's always accountability. When one side is not being done, who's responsible for it? And I think that's how you can attract talent and people to join you.
Yeah, no,
So it's like,
great.
I'm not asking you to join the team and then for me to sit down for you to do the work. No,
Yeah.
I understand what my role is within the organization, and this would be your role.
Yeah. And did you ever get patronized at any point because of your age, and people just didn't take you seriously and they just thought you were winging it?
Yes, I did. There's a time when I had a mentor that was assigned to me from the Innovation Hub in Botswana, but he wasn't part of the hub itself. He was an external mentor. And I recall at some point, he had asked for money. And I gave it to him because he had promised that he would like return it a week later. The week came, then he gave me another excuse. And then like the excuse kept rolling and rolling and rolling. And then I had to inform, excuse me a second, apologies. Apologies for that. Yes, so I then had to report him to the Innovation Hub after giving him some like countless chances to pay back and keep it from growing into a bigger situation than it was. And unfortunately, after I reported it, then they removed any collaboration that they had with him, and a lot of the endorsements he had for the work that he does, this like all fell through after the incident happened. And that could have long been avoided had he taken me seriously when I told him, your deadline is up. You said you would give the funds and you returned them, and he didn't. I think he thought because I'm very nice, people can take you for granted. And because, you know, when you have a mentor, you look up to them. And so, you know, it was a very difficult and situation because he was good at what he does, but I think he had financial issues, but he wasn't forthcoming and upfront about it from the start, and it led to what it led to. So
Wow.
that was one experience that I learned, and yeah, it's all part of my journey.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Welcome.
I think that is it, Titose. Thank you so much. We have so loved having you with us.
Can I jump in quickly?
Please, Kapeho, go ahead.
I just have a question again. Sorry for, correct me if I'm wrong. Titose. I don't know if I'm saying it correct.
Yes, you are.
Okay. I just wanted to find out, like, because this was huge. How did you manage? And where did you find the strength every time like you hit a hurdle or things were just obstructive in keeping to your vision and your mission? And I mean, all these things that you've come across, where did you get the strength, and just how did you manage?
I'd say three things. The first one is the one I mentioned, is not falling in love with the idea, but with the mission of changing people's lives, because there've been points in time we've shifted from trying to do our own mobile wallet, we couldn't, from trying to launching it as our own product, we couldn't. You know, you then will need to constantly, but because my mind was on the ball of how can I impact these people's lives, and less on how can I make this product grow, scale, and become big, it was possible for me to keep shifting because that never changed throughout. The second thing I would say is the people you keep around you. So I've put people that are like in a similar journey in entrepreneurship, because they've been, who are more experienced, they've been through the low times where they've lost all financing, all, like they went through the problems that maybe I'm now going through, and they provide hope for me to see like, oh, they've been through it and they've gotten out of it, and to say that you're not alone in this. So that's been the second thing, the people that are around you. And the third thing for me, because I'm spiritual, I trust that everything will work out for my good because it's been written.
Thank you.
What do you think stands for you, Katlego? What are your fears around running for office?
Failure. It's definitely failure. And losing, I mean, not keeping to the mission, getting overwhelmed and other things coming into play, and therefore you just tilted completely off of what it is you're trying to achieve. So in turn, obviously that then causes the failure because you went off the rails. So for me, it's just keeping to it and just managing not to get influenced in any negative form and just keeping to it.
Do any of the other mentors want to speak to that?
Can I say something? I think my fears are the same with Katlego's, like it's fear. Most of that with me, over the years, I've been in leadership positions only in the church. So it's always a matter of fearing, failing the people that I'm leading and failing God. So most of the times I move about the position being extra careful, which can also be against me, which like can work against me.
Titose?
I'd say in response to that, you will find that most males, when a position, like what you fear of disappointing or not living up to that position, most males would see that position and go for it. And they'd be like, well, if I fail, I fail. You know, it is what it is, but I'm gonna go for it and I'm not gonna let that stop me. So what's stopping us from doing the same? You are most likely never going to feel confident enough until you're in the position and you just have to get the job done. So I know it's a very hard thing to get over, of being afraid to fail. I've gone through that too as well, because it's what I'm doing is a grand project, and you wonder to yourself, what if I fail? What if I lose the investors' money? What if I don't meet the expectations of my partners? And letting that stop you from taking on that role. Somebody else will take it, but they might not do the job. They might not do the job what it's meant for. We have seen a lot of corruption, more especially in the government space. And so the people that they're meant to be helped won't be helped because you thought that you would fail in that position. Somebody else took it and then they use it for their own benefit. So I think focus on perhaps the people you're going to impact and say, well, there's no option for me to fail. But in the event that you do, you learn something from it. Failure is never meant to keep you down. It's meant to tell you that, well, you did this one way, it didn't work. How can you do it another way?
And just to add to that, I think what you said earlier as well about sometimes failure can be turned into something amazing. And from every failure, you learn so much, right? And so that growth that comes from learning, you can never get that learning anywhere else. And that helps you to then be better at what you're doing in the future. Mbali, you have a question?
Yes, I do. Just as a thank you so much for sharing your story. I just wanted to find out, did you say that, what did you study in the beginning? Because I kind of missed out on your introduction. What did you study in the finance stream?
So I did a Bachelor of Finance degree at University of Botswana. So it's general, like traditional finance or financial reporting, portfolio management, financial accounting, that stuff. There's nothing tech related that was in my course.
So you just chose to merge the tech world with your, what can I say, commerce stream?
Yes, because I was actually like in second year, I was ambitious enough to start applying to posts that were like McKinsey, Goldman Sachs. And I noticed in the applications, though it wasn't compulsory, but they would ask things like, do you have any experience working with big data? Do you have any technical skills, data science and all of that? And I wondered, if they're asking this now, though it's not a compulsory, it might be in the next few years. So I will take a good bet to say IT is going to impact, technology is going to impact the finance industry in a larger way. So I started then paying attention to what's happening in the financial technology space. And I could see that fintech startups in other markets that are doing amazing things. And I noticed, okay, the more attention I paid to the fourth industrial revolution, it became clear how it's going to impact every industry. So when we finished our studies, most of my peers decided that they want to become chartered financial analysts. And that's the natural route for most people that graduate from my program. But I decided I want to go into financial technology because I don't want to, people are creating programs that are going to replace our jobs. I'd rather be on the other side that's creating the program than be on the side that's just waiting for a ticking bomb.
No, that is true. Now I understand.
Yeah.
Because what I wanted to ask is that I'm from the construction space, but I'm looking into merging my studies with something from the commerce world. So I just wanted to find out which stream would you advise on in terms of like maybe, is it accounting? Is it financial analytics? You know, that kind of thing. Which stream is more marketable when you're going into companies that you can advise on from someone who's coming from a commerce background? Is it economics or something that we can do short courses for people who are from a different, what can I say, study field, you know, whether you're studying property, whether you're studying construction or anything like that? Which commerce stream would you advise on to merge?
Well, my experience is based on my experience. So one, it's subjective. So one may have a different opinion. So do take it with a grain of salt. But I would say if you're moving into the commerce field, don't do the traditional route because that's going to phase out in the next few years. See where the financial industry is going. Most of it has merged with the tech industry of becoming, because you can become a data analyst that's specializing in the financial markets. You can build trading bots, if you want to go into the trading space. So I'd always say find like a program that has a little bit of technical expertise in it, because that will future-proof you, your career. There's also lots of development in the blockchain space. So you can always merge finance with a bit of tech there, and don't be afraid of it. I was looking at developing at software like, I feel like this is for people who've done computer science. But what encouraged me is when I saw an article of a 90-year-old Asian lady that built a game for elderly people, like an app, because there was no apps for people in the, what do you call this? Like elder homes. And so she learned how to code just so she could build a game that was interesting for her friends and herself. And I was like, what? If a 85-year-old took 4 years to learn and build something that's now being now unreported on BBC and people are downloading, what's stopping me who's 20 something to just start from scratch and learn?
And if I can add to that, Mbali, you don't have to go and do another degree. There are so many short online courses and offerings that you can do just to study various aspects, and just maybe even to see what you're interested in, doing like a short course in something to see if it piques your interest. And if that's what you want to do, there's so much available right now. Like, between check out LinkedIn Learning, check out Udemy, some of these amazing platforms that are offering lots of, short courses on data analytics, on data science, on developing, and you just need one of those just to give you a little bit of an overview. And once you have that overview, then you can see, is that something I want to pursue, or is there somewhere else I want to go? Just keep gathering the knowledge, just keep doing that learning. That's the most important thing.
But even with the construction space, like, I find it also interesting because there've been developments of 3D printing homes, making it very cheap and affordable for informal settlements to build homes. So there's very interesting development in your space. And there's not much of that in South Africa. So it's like, why don't you pioneer that in South Africa? People will want to fund you because there's so much development that can be made for the informal settlements.
No, that is true. I really appreciate your insight. And then what books do you read, or maybe articles that you make use of just to keep you updated with what's happening? Because I can imagine being in the tech space, you need to constantly keep up to date with the changes and what's going on.
So during my varsity years, I read a lot of leadership books. But now I've started focusing on websites like Coinbase, because I'm in the fintech space. I do AI and I do blockchain. But what I use now is on my phone. I don't know if you've noticed, when you start Googling stuff that's in the same theme, Google then sends you articles that are related to that. So every morning I swipe left and I see the latest articles within my fields. And that's how I keep updated every day. Reports that are sent out, you'll find 4 hours, they just released it, I will know.
All right. No, thank you so much.